Hi, welcome to Plots and Reviews. I'm Brie, and here I talk about books, movies, TV shows, and occasionally provide spoilers to books that you may be curious about, but you may never read. All opinions are my own, and you're free to disagree with me. For my last video, I was super excited to get into the world of science fiction, although it's a world I know that not a lot of people are in. I'm not really sure on how appreciated the sci-fi genre is, but it's one of my favorites. In any case, we are going to be starting a series of reviews that I'm doing for a few sci-fi books. So if you don't plan on reading sci-fi, but you're curious about what sci-fi books are like, this is another option for you to hear the stories because I will be providing spoilers. I just have to with these stories. I mean, how else would I explain some of these things without actually explaining some of these things? All right, so our very first book is Traitor's Run by Keith Stevenson. We're just going to go through the basics of the book, so like an overview, and then we're going to go into some details about what happened in the stories, and I'll let you know once you need to expect some spoilers. All right, let's begin. The Blurb, well, my Blurb, the Krez, whose ultimate aim is to have a Borg-like communion, if you know, you know, are about to have their reclusive ant, scorpion, crab, cockroach society shaken by humans and their hegemony. The hegemony, led by cruel humans who will stop at nothing to keep their own species safe, even if it means destroying planets with over 13 billion people and mass mutilations, because humans will be humans, and someone has to stop them. Will it be the strange Udun of the Krez, or the disgraced Rees of the humans? And I definitely feel that these humans need to be stopped because they're a bit much. They're a bit much. Book basics. The official title of the book is Traitor's Run. My title is The Hegemony because that's who we all need to come together to destroy, or at least have them calm down and take a chill pill. The author, as I mentioned before, is Keith Stevenson. My favorite character was actually Knock. I found it a bit normal to read, a bit slow because it took me a while. It's a novel, it's hard sci-fi, high sci-fi, hard sci-fi, and it is a space opera kind of thing. We have humans just being humans, and I gave it a solid 4 out of 5. Book overview. So let me tell you what it's about. Essentially, the book tells 2 stories. Firstly, we have the human Rees, who is this disgraced hegemony pilot, and she's transferred to this secret service SS kind of thing under this horrible man. And this is only after her father, who was like an admiral or something, stepped in and he made her not get fired because she got her. Anyway, so she's transferred. He helps her. I realize that I shouldn't be giving spoilers now. Anyway, so he helps her, and when she joins this new service, she actually has to start doing something she doesn't like because, she loved being a pilot. So she becomes a little bit more and more disappointed in herself. She's dealing with a lot of mental stress because of what happened. And as a result, she is a bit rebellious, and this leads her to end up on the wrong side of her new, I don't know who he is, like her general, I don't know, this man. And because of it, I believe that she becomes more aware of what the hegemony is actually doing and what the Secret Service does. Our second story follows a Krez named Udun. And honestly, I spent a good amount of this book trying to figure out what these people look like. So I described him as a crab and scorpion cockroach alien, him and his friends. And he's considered strange by his highly telepathic fellow beings. And he doesn't want to be part of this thing that is close to a hive mind that his planet has. So he's trying to leave the planet and trying to live away and so on. But he on one of like on his first mission out, he hears about the hegemony, and then when he comes back home, he tries to warn people, including his like overseer, the like head of his community, his sister, and they don't really believe him. So he's unable to convince them about how dangerous they are. And then things start going wrong because of this lack of belief in this poor guy. Book review or review. So overall, I give it a 4 out of 5 because I found that the ideas behind the story were solid and believable. So the tech that we were sold, the way the societies communicated, the different aliens that we met, we have about 2 that I found particularly original. Like I haven't seen them in anything like Star Trek or Star Wars-ish. Maybe Star Wars. There's something similar. But they were pretty unique, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate being introduced to new species. I found that the way the societies have their differences, I thought that was also well done and well described. How interstellar travel works, the reasons behind certain things working were solid. It was cohesive. It wasn't like, oh, it happens, you know, like it made sense within the world, and that's always important. I love that at the end we were provided sort of a clarification on the Krez society itself, since it features so prominently. The drama and action in the creative world were extremely well done. I enjoyed that. There was a solid rationale building on how travel happens, as I mentioned, the different areas of space and how species interact. I believe that you could actually plot the different home planets and like planets by reading the book. So it's something that makes sense and is set upable, you know? And I do think that the created species, as I mentioned before, were well done. Some of the themes that the book touched on were family bonds, colonizations, conquering worlds, conquering societies, what you need to do in order to what some societies believe they need to do in order to conquer when they should be working together and not conquering. There is the idea of the few for the many. There's a lot of backstabbing, so if you like backstabbing, it's there. And of course, what starts a war and what can prevent wars, what make wars, I believe, you know, grow bigger, that kind of thing. So there is the evolution of these themes. So what were the meh, or the things I didn't quite like? Okay. So there are spoilers here, okay? There will be spoilers. These are spoilers. Spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, please leave. Spoilers, spoilers. Okay. First of all, I'm fed up of reading about certain people looking a certain way, being in space, because there's almost this belief that only certain people would be in space. I don't know if some of these authors expect people to just die out around the world, or that people will stop living in certain countries, or that they die out when they're in these countries. I don't know. But my point is, I'm fed up. Which is why the new episodes of Star Trek and so on, like the new like seasons and the new types of Star Trek, have me like extremely giddy and happy, because they get the point. Like, if you are pretending to talk about humans acting as a unit instead of individual countries, then you're gonna have more than one type of looking human in spaces. Okay? Simply, it's a numbers game. It's just a numbers game. Who is the global majority? That's all I'm saying. The other points. 1, there's this moment of like sexual violation that occurs, and I don't know, I didn't feel it was necessary. Like, we already barely have any females in this book. There are like 3 that have any kind of presence, and then we get one, and of course she has to feel violated in some way, although this is like a practice that is necessary in the society so that you can have a particular type of creature. So it's not even optional. The man can't fully fertilize her sac or whatever, so how is, whatever, maybe she just didn't like the guy. Why not say she didn't like the guy? Like, I don't know, the idea of this being like this violation thing and then her suffering that, being one of the only females, was just very, I plucked out my eyes, and that's where I held it in my hand, and like I jiggled it because I was like, oh, that was one of the second. Another thing, so we have these three females that we actually know are these three females, right? And one of them is basically irrelevant. So we basically have two females. And they are so insecure. They are ridiculously insecure. And every little thing, they're like, oh my God, I'm hated. Oh my God, this. Oh my, just get over it, girl. Move on. So the only kick-ass females we have are easily cowed, highly insecure. One of them spends like over like the first 50 or 100 pages of the book just complaining that, you know, maybe she's hated by this guy. Who cares? Like, you're a pilot in the middle of like, maybe if we had 10 women and these two behaved like this, I'd be like, okay, cool. But this, I didn't need both of them to be so cowed, you know? Like, and then they tried to make us believe that they're kick-ass, but they're not. They're just... But then again, I say to myself sometimes, this is like sci-fi that features a certain group of people specifically. So while of the two females, we have so 50% of the females in this book are like, yay, let me go do whatever, and then regret doing whatever. And then the other 50% is like, let me save the idiot. Let me save the idiot man. We don't know. We let the idiot man just die. Just go die. Unalive. If you want to unalive yourself, if you want to cancel your subscription to life, whomst am I to stop you, sir? Whomst am I? Another thing that I found interesting, which goes back to my first point, is that we're specifically told something like, oh, you know, these humans that are running around, oh, they, you know, they have like, they're of pink skin and they reflected the people who first conquered it. And again, I was like, is this necessary? I don't know. I just found it like, it's 2023, you know, like, we're globalized, fortunately and unfortunately. Like, I don't know, I just thought it could be better done. I was like, ugh, eye roll. And finally, the other thing that had me going like, take out the eyes and jiggle around, is that, so throughout the book, we have certain types of looking aliens, which is fine. Then the first mention of these dark, almost black-skinned aliens that we have, guess what they do? They kidnap the blonde chick, right? They take her, quote-unquote, against her will. Oh my gosh. Then she meets some other freaks, like some other freaky aliens, right? But these who basically are just dark-skinned, almost human looking, like with lion hair. She's like, oh, they're uglies. Let me tell you, the bombastic side-eye, criminal, offensive side-eye I gave to that was ridiculous. I was like, really? You meet horse people, snake people, slitteries, but the dark-skinned, lion-looking people, these are the ones that are uglies? Okay, girl. Okay. So what's my verdict? Overall, I think it is a good book for what it is. As I mentioned, I did give it a 4 out of 5. For the sci-fi specifically features, the rationale, all of that happening, it's really good. If you're someone who doesn't mind reading about silly females, either because you're very accustomed or you really don't mind them, then this will be even better for you. There are a lot of things that a lot of my mez can basically be ignored if you have zero issues with it, so you can also read through that. And overall, the story is well written. The societies, as I mentioned, are very good. There are a lot of positives, so I would recommend that persons read the book. If you're into sci-fi, pick it up, see what you like, see what you dislike, and there will be more, because now the scene is set to see if these lenticular people belonging to the lenticular, so the Krez, they belong to this, group of planets and planet worlds and other aliens called the lenticular. If they are going to win a fight against humans and human colonies that basically hate them, or if maybe this other group of aliens that we haven't met as yet, the Hanoloi, them, if they are going to win. So there is a possibility for even more, and more worlds being opened up and us learning about more systems. So it's interesting for that. So those were my thoughts. Thank you very much for watching today. Remember to subscribe, comment, and share. I'd love to hear your opinions on my mess or what are some good sci-fi books that you've read lately, because I do want to keep reading some more sci-fi, so I'm open to recommendations. Take care and have an amazing week. Bye.